What if I told you that everything you want in life, success, respect, money, fulfillment, confidence, doesn't begin with talent, luck, or connections, but with one invisible skill you either master or it quietly controls you? What if the reason you feel stuck isn't because you're not capable, but because you've been trained to focus on the wrong thing? Let me ask you something uncomfortable. How many times have you started something with passion, only to quit when it became hard? How many dreams have died not because you failed, but because you lost the reason you started? Here's the truth most people never hear. Success is not built by people who are smarter than you. It's not built by people who wake up more motivated than you. It's built by people who understand one skill so deeply that it guides every decision they make, especially when no one is watching. And if you miss this skill, no amount of hustle will save you. Imagine two people with the same talent, the same education, the same opportunities. One rises, the other fades. The difference is not effort, it's clarity. One knows why they do what they do. The other only knows what they do. And when life hits them both, because life always hits, only one has a reason strong enough to stand back up. You see, the world teaches you to chase outcomes. Titles, numbers, applause. But outcomes don't sustain you. Outcomes excite you briefly, then demand more. Purpose sustains you. Purpose wakes you up when motivation disappears. Purpose keeps you moving when results are slow and doubts are loud. This is why so many talented people burn out. They were taught how to work, but never taught why they work. They built skills, but not meaning. And without meaning, pressure feels heavy instead of meaningful. If you want to be successful in life, not temporarily impressive, but deeply fulfilled, you must master the skill of understanding your why. Not the fake, rehearsed answer you tell others, but the honest reason that makes discomfort worth it. Because when you know your why, failure doesn't break you, it teaches you. Criticism doesn't stop you, it sharpens you. And success doesn't change you, it reveals you. This one skill is not loud, it won't trend, but it will quietly decide the direction of your entire life. And once you hear it clearly, you can never unhear it. Every choice, habit, and sacrifice suddenly makes sense because you are no longer chasing success. You are walking toward meaning. That changes everything forever. Let me challenge you with this. If I took away your job title, your salary, your social status, and your achievements, who would you be tomorrow morning when the alarm rings? Would you still get up with the same fire, or would you feel empty? This is where most people get exposed because they've built their identity on outcomes instead of intention. Here's the uncomfortable reality. When your motivation depends on external rewards, you become fragile. The moment praise disappears, energy fades. The moment results slow down, confidence collapses. And life is unpredictable. It will delay you, test you, and disappoint you. So if your drive comes only from winning, you will quit the moment you stop winning. This is why the most dangerous days are not the hardest ones. They're the comfortable ones. The days when things are okay but not meaningful. When you're busy but not fulfilled. That's when people drift. That's when potential quietly dies, not in failure, but in comfort. Mastering this one skill begins with asking better questions. Not what do I want to achieve, but why does this matter to me? Not how I get ahead, but who do I want to become? Because goals can be borrowed from society, from parents, from trends, but meaning cannot be borrowed. It must be discovered. Think about the people you admire most, the ones who inspire trust, loyalty, and respect. They don't just talk about success, they talk about belief. They don't just sell products, they stand for something. And even when they struggle, people stay with them, because purpose creates trust. Here's the shift you must make. Stop chasing those emotional. It comes and goes. Start building conviction. Conviction is stable. It's the quiet voice that says, this matters, even when no one is clapping. When you know why you're doing something, discipline becomes easier. Sacrifice becomes logical. Patience becomes possible. You stop asking, is this worth it? Because you already know the answer. Most people wait for clarity before they act. But clarity comes from action, not thinking. You discover your why by paying attention to what angers you, what excites you, what breaks your heart, and what you're willing to struggle for without being forced. This is not about finding a perfect sentence. It's about finding a direction. A reason strong enough to pull you forward when fear pushes back. And once you start living from that place, something powerful happens. You stop needing validation. You stop comparing your journey to others. You stop chasing every opportunity and start choosing the right ones. Because when your why is clear, decisions become simple, even when they are difficult. And that clarity becomes your unfair advantage in a world full of noise. Now let me take you deeper, because understanding your why is only the beginning. The real mastery comes when you learn how to protect it, because the world will test it, people will question it, circumstances will challenge it, and if your why is weak, borrowed, or unclear, it will collapse under pressure. Here's what happens to most people. They feel inspired for a moment, they hear something powerful, they write down a sentence, they say, this is my purpose. And then life happens, bills arrive, responsibilities pile up, fear whispers, doubt grows louder, and slowly that purpose gets pushed to the background. This is why your why must be emotional, not logical. Logic convinces your brain. Emotion moves your body. You don't wake up early because it makes sense. You wake up early because something matters to you more than comfort. And if nothing matters more than comfort, comfort will win every time. Think about the moments in your life that shaped you the most. Not the easy ones, the painful ones. The moments where you felt ignored, underestimated, or powerless. Hidden inside those moments is a clue. Often, your why is connected to a pain you don't want others to feel, or a truth you wish someone had told you sooner. This is why people who've struggled often lead with more strength. They're not driven by ego. They're driven by meaning. They're not trying to prove something. They're trying to prevent something. And that gives them endurance. But here's the mistake. People try to eliminate fear. Fear doesn't disappear. Fear becomes quieter when purpose becomes louder. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is deciding that something else matters more. When your why is clear, fear stops being a stop sign and becomes a signal. It tells you you're on the edge of growth. It tells you you're doing something meaningful. And instead of turning back, you lean in. This is also why consistency beats intensity. Anyone can be intense for a week. Purpose shows up quietly every day, even when no one is watching, especially when no one is watching. So ask yourself this. If success took longer than you expect, would your why still be worth it? If recognition never came, would the work still matter? If the answer is no, then you're chasing validation, not meaning. And that's okay. Awareness is the first step. Because once you stop pretending, you can start building something real. When your why is honest, not impressive, not polished, but true, it becomes a compass. It won't make the road easy, but it will make the direction undeniable. And that's how real success is built. Let's talk about application, because insight without action is entertainment. Knowing your why is useless if it never changes how you behave on an ordinary Tuesday. Mastery begins when your purpose becomes a filter for your daily decisions, not a poster on your wall. Every day you are making choices. How you spend your time, who you listen to, what you tolerate, what you walk away from. Most people let convenience make those decisions. Purpose should make them instead. If something doesn't align with why you exist, it costs you more than time. It costs you direction. This is where discipline finally makes sense. Discipline is not about forcing yourself to do things you hate. It's about choosing what matters most over what feels good now. When your why is clear, discipline stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like loyalty to yourself. Think about it this way. When you say yes to distractions, you are saying no to your purpose. When you stay silent to keep peace, you are betraying something inside you. And every small betrayal makes the next one easier. This is how people slowly lose themselves without noticing. But when you live aligned, something powerful happens. You stop chasing everything. You become selective. You don't need to explain every decision. You don't need approval. You know what you stand for, so know what you stand against. This alignment also changes how you handle setbacks. When things go wrong, you don't panic as much. You ask better questions. You ask, what is this trying to teach me? Instead of, why is this happening to me? Purpose turns problems into feedback. And here's something rarely said, your why will evolve. It's allowed to grow as you grow. What matters is not clinging to an old version of yourself, but staying honest about what still matters. Growth doesn't mean abandoning purpose. It means deepening it. You will also outgrow people. Not because you're better, but because you're clearer, and clarity makes some relationships uncomfortable. That's the price of alignment. And it's worth it. When you live this way, success becomes a byproduct, not the goal. You stop measuring your life only by outcomes and start measuring it by integrity, by whether your actions match your values. And at the end of the day, the most confident people are not the loudest. They are the most aligned. They know who they are, why they're here, and what they're willing to sacrifice for it. That certainly is rare, and it's powerful. Now let me tell you why most people never reach this level, even after they understand it. Because mastering this skill demands responsibility, and responsibility is heavy. The moment you become clear about your why, you lose the right to blame circumstances, people, or luck. Clarity removes excuses. Before clarity, you can say, I didn't know. After clarity, every misaligned choice becomes conscious, and that's uncomfortable. It's easier to stay confused than to admit you're avoiding what matters. This is where resistance shows up. You'll feel tired for no clear reason. You'll suddenly doubt yourself. You'll get distracted by urgent but unimportant things. That's not laziness. That's fear dressed up as business. Fear of committing to something that asks more from you. Because when your why is strong, average effort feels dishonest. You can't unsee what matters. You can't pretend anymore. And that scares people because it means change is no longer optional. Here's the paradox. The more meaningful your path, the lonelier it can feel at first. Not everyone will understand your choices. Some will feel threatened. Some will mock what they don't have the courage to pursue. That's not a sign you're wrong. That's a sign you're different. You must learn to sit with that discomfort without becoming bitter. Purpose is not about proving others wrong. It's about staying true even when applause is missing. Especially when applause is missing. And let's be honest, there will be days when your why feels quiet, when energy is low, when progress is invisible. This is where rituals matter more than motivation. Small actions done consistently protect your purpose when emotions fluctuate. This is also why comparison is dangerous. The moment you measure your journey against someone else's timeline, you weaken your why. Their path is not your proof. Their success is not your deadline. Stay in your lane. Depth beats speed every time. You don't need to announce your purpose to the world. You need to live it when no one is watching. Integrity is what you do when recognition is not guaranteed. And slowly, without forcing it, something shifts. People begin to trust you. Opportunities align. Not because you're chasing them, but because clarity attracts alignment. Success stops feeling like pressure and starts feeling like expression. You're no longer trying to become someone. You're simply becoming more of who you already are. This is the quiet power of mastering this one skill. It doesn't just change what you achieve, it changes how you experience your life. And once you feel that alignment, going back to confusion is no longer an option. Let's talk about what happens when this skill becomes part of who you are. Not just something you understand, but something you live. This is the moment where your internal world starts to change before your external results do. And this is where most people quit, because they mistake silence for failure. When you stop chasing approval, the noise fades. Fewer people cheer, fewer people comment. And for a while, it feels like nothing is happening. But something is happening. You're building depth instead of attention. Roots instead of headlines. And roots grow quietly. This phase tests patience more than talent. You'll wonder if you should go back to what was easy, back to what felt productive, back to what impressed people. But deep down, you know you can't. Because once you've seen what alignment feels like, shallow success feels empty. This is where identity is formed, not by what you say, but by what you consistently choose. Every time you honor your why over convenience, you reinforce trust with yourself, and self-trust is the foundation of confidence, not loud confidence, calm confidence. You start to notice something subtle. You're less reactive. Criticism doesn't hit as hard. Praise doesn't control you as much. You're not perfect, but you're grounded. And grounded people don't need to rush. They move with intention. This also changes how you lead, even if you don't have a title. People feel safe around clarity. They sense when someone is not pretending. And without trying, you give others permission to be honest, to slow down, to think deeper. But here's the responsibility that comes with this power. You must stay curious. Purpose is not rigid, it's alive. If you turn it into ego, it will betray you. If you use it to feel superior, it will collapse. Humility keeps purpose clean. You will still make mistakes. Alignment doesn't mean perfection, it means correction. You notice faster when you drift. You return sooner when you fall off course. That's growth. Over time, the work you do begins to feel lighter, even when it's hard. Because struggle without meaning is exhausting. Struggle with meaning is fulfilling. You're no longer asking, how do I win? You're asking, how do I contribute? And that question changes everything. It changes how you speak, how you listen, how you show up. You stop needing to be right and start wanting to be useful. This is when success stops being something you chase in the future and becomes something you practice every day, quietly, consistently, intentionally. There comes a moment, if you stay on this path long enough, when life will ask you a harder question, not what do you want, but what are you willing to give up? Because every meaningful why demands a sacrifice. And this is where many people hesitate. You can have comfort, or you can have growth, but rarely both at the same time. You can have certainty, or you can have progress, but not without risk. The world loves to talk about success, but it stays quiet about the cost. And if you're not prepared for the cost, you'll resent the journey. This is why clarity must come before ambition. Ambition without purpose turns toxic. It makes you impatient. It makes you compare. It makes you cut corners. But purpose-centered ambition is different. It's patient, it's ethical, it knows that how you win matters just as much as if you win. At this stage, temptation shows up in subtle ways. Shortcuts, easier paths. Opportunities that look good on the outside but feel wrong on the inside. This is where your why becomes a boundary. Not everything that moves you forward is meant for you. And saying no will feel uncomfortable. You'll wonder if you're missing out. You'll fear being left behind. But remember this. Focus is not about doing more. It's about protecting what matters most. Every yes costs energy. Spend it wisely. This is also when resilience deepens. Not the loud, dramatic kind, but the quiet kind. The kind that gets up without announcing it. The kind that keeps promises to itself. You stop needing guarantees. You trust the process because you trust your reason for being in it. People will ask you for advice. They'll notice you're calm. They'll ask how you stay consistent. And the truth is, consistency isn't about willpower. It's about alignment. When actions match values, effort feels natural. You'll also face moments of loss. Relationships that don't survive your growth. Versions of yourself you have to let go of. That grief is real. Honor it. Growth always includes endings. But here's what waits on the other side: freedom. Not freedom from responsibility, but freedom from confusion. You wake up knowing what matters. You go to sleep knowing you didn't betray yourself. And that kind of peace is rare. It doesn't come from winning, it comes from integrity. From living a life where your choices make sense to your soul, even when they don't make sense to everyone else. This is the cost of mastering this one skill. And it's also the reward. At this point, something shifts in how you experience time. You stop rushing, not because you're slow, but because you're deliberate. You realize that urgency is often a mask for insecurity, and patience is a sign of confidence. When you know where you're going and why, you don't panic when the road gets long. This is where mastery shows itself. You begin to think in years, not days. You stop asking, what do I get now? And start asking, what am I building? And builders don't rush foundations. They understand that what lasts is often invisible at first. You also stop reacting to every opinion, not because you don't care, but because you care about the right things. Noise loses its power when purpose is clear. Advice becomes something you evaluate, not something you obey. You listen deeply, but you decide independently. This maturity changes how you handle pressure. When stress comes, you don't collapse into panic. You slow down. You return to your why. You remind yourself that pressure doesn't mean stop. It means pay attention. Pressure refines when purpose is present. You start to recognize patterns in your life. What drains you? What energizes you? What aligns? What distracts? And instead of fighting yourself, you design your life around these truths. You stop forcing outcomes and start creating conditions for progress. This is also where gratitude deepens. Not the surface, level kind, but real appreciation for the journey. You're grateful for lessons disguised as delays, for struggles that built strength, for moments that tested your integrity and proved it to you. Your conversations change. You speak less, but with more intention. You listen more than you respond. You're not trying to win arguments anymore. You're trying to understand. And understanding creates connection. Even success feels different now. It doesn't inflate you. It humbles you. You see how much was required to get here. How many unseen choices mattered. How many times you stayed true when it would have been easier not to. And here's the quiet truth. You no longer fear starting over. Because your confidence isn't tied to a position or result. It's tied to your values. And values travel with you wherever you go. So if things fall apart, you rebuild. If plans change, you adapt. If doors close, you create new ones. Not from desperation, but from clarity. This is when life stops feeling like a race and starts feeling like a craft. Something you shape daily, patiently, intentionally. And that is a level of success most people never reach. Because it can't be faked, rushed, or borrowed. Eventually, life will give you a moment that tests everything you believe. Not a dramatic moment everyone sees, but a quiet one. A choice where no one would blame you either way. A moment where cutting corners would be easy and staying aligned would be hard. This is where your why stops being an idea and becomes a standard. Because character is revealed in private decisions. When there is no audience, no reward, no immediate consequence, just you in the mirror. And in those moments, you don't rise to your goals. You fall to your values. This is why mastery of this skill creates something deeper than success. It creates trust. Trust with others, yes, but more importantly, trust with yourself. And when you trust yourself, fear loses its grip. You're no longer afraid of failure, because failure doesn't define you. Betrayal of your values does. You start to notice how rare this is. How many people live fragmented lives, saying one thing, do another, feeling disconnected from themselves? And you realize that peace doesn't come from having more options. It comes from having fewer contradictions. At this stage, temptation no longer looks like pleasure. It looks like misalignment. You can feel it immediately. Something may look impressive, profitable, or popular, but if it pulls you away from your why, it feels heavy instead of exciting. And that awareness is power. You also become more patient with others. You stop expecting everyone to understand you. You remember how long it took you to understand yourself. Compassion grows when ego shrinks. And leadership grows from compassion, not control. This is where influence becomes natural. Not because you try to inspire, but because your life makes sense. People don't follow words. They follow consistency. They trust those who don't change their values when circumstances change. You'll still feel doubt. Mastery doesn't eliminate doubt. It teaches you how to sit with it without letting it drive. Doubt becomes a question, not a command. It asks you to reflect, not retreat. And when setbacks come, you recover faster. Not because it hurts less, but because you know what matters. You don't spiral into identity crisis every time something fails. Your sense of self is stable. Here's the truth most people never hear. Success without alignment feels like pressure. Alignment without recognition feels like peace. And peace is the foundation on which real success can finally stand. You're no longer chasing proof. You're living evidence. Evidence that clarity creates courage, that purpose creates endurance, that meaning outlasts motivation. This is the quiet transformation that happens when you master this one skill. You don't become louder. You become steadier. And in a world full of noise, steadiness is rare, trusted, and powerful. So here we are at the end, and I want you to hear this clearly. Success is not something you chase. It's something you align with. The moment you stop asking how to win and start asking why you exist, the game changes. You stop running in circles and start moving in a direction. This one skill, knowing your why and living by it, will not make your life easy. But it will make it honest. And honesty creates strength. Strength creates consistency. Consistency creates trust. And trust, over time, creates success that lasts. You won't always feel confident. You won't always feel inspired. But you will feel anchored. And when storms come, and they will, anchors matter more than speed. You'll know who you are when things go wrong, not just when things go right. There will be moments when you're tempted to abandon your values for quick results. Don't short-term wins that cost your integrity always demand repayment later. Stay patient. Stay aligned. What is built slowly stands longer. Remember this, the world doesn't need more loud people chasing attention. It needs grounded people who know what they stand for. People whose actions match their words. People who choose meaning over noise. If you take nothing else from this, take this. Clarity comes before confidence. Purpose comes before progress. And when those are in place, success stops being stressful and starts being sustainable. You don't need permission to live intentionally. You don't need validation to stay true. You don't need to prove your worth. You need to protect your why and act from it daily. So tomorrow morning, when the alarm rings, don't ask how hard the day will be. Ask why it matters. Let that answer guide your choices. Let it shape your habits. Let it decide what you say yes to and what you walk away from. Because a life built on purpose doesn't collapse when circumstances change, it adapts, it grows, it endures. This is not the end of your journey, it's the beginning of living it on your terms, quietly, intentionally, honestly. And if you do that, success won't be something you hope for someday. It will be something you recognize in how you live every single day. That's how you master this one skill. That's how you win the long game. This is the end of the video.